Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence. Hope everybody is doing all right out there tonight. With me, of course, as always, my sexy co-host, Jason. And
Love
bringing
to
more,
all.
and bringing more sexiness to the show is Jackie, aka Iron Dogger. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. I don't know about all that.
Well,
It's hard to top Jason's sexiness. I
It
mean,
really
it is.
is, but
It is.
it's okay.
I just don't bother getting dressed up or doing my hair or anything anymore.
but you're just a natural.
Oh, really? Oh, thanks. Yeah. Anyway, hope everyone's all right in the chat there. If you've come over from Bigfoot Odyssey, howdy.
Hi.
What we're going to talk about tonight is an idea that I had that I want to put forward to people. And it's going to be going ahead on Thursday. I haven't got a time yet, but I'm going to put an announcement in my community tab. So anyone following me obviously will see that.
In what tab?
Community.
Community. Okay, just checking.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Should
it's
I have said
fine.
it another way? You sure?
No, you're good. You're great. It's wonderful.
Okay. And on Facebook, because not everyone's on Facebook, but there'll be
No, they're not.
an announcement on Facebook. If you're following me on Hidden Existence on Facebook, I'll be putting a link there. But I want you to look out for something called the Encounter Hub. And the Encounter Hub is a place where people can come. It's not a group. It doesn't involve you typing out your story or your comments. It is a place to come like this, like you see us now, but it's not live. We're not recording anything. There's so many people that I know want to share their encounters, but they don't want to come on a show. And I get that. And I don't want to exploit anybody. I don't want anyone to come on just for the sake of it to give me a show and give me content. I want to reach out to those that don't have a place to go, don't want to come on and show the face or even hide the face and talk, because I know it's nerve-wracking for some people. But this will be like an open line where people can just come in and talk or listen. There'll be other people there that have had encounters that want to talk to other people that have had encounters. And I think it'll be a good experience for people. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a wonderful idea. It's to your point. You know, talking about exploitations. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, Bigfoot Odyssey isn't exploitative in any way, but there's some people who just don't want to come on and talk in front of the whole world, right? They don't want to
Yeah.
be, they don't want to feel like it's them, revealing this in many cases traumatic or frightening experience, or they just don't want to be seen as crazy. So I think doing something offline where people who've had these experiences who are going to be supportive can actually talk about it, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great idea. I
I
mean,
don't mean
it's
to use the word exploited like that. What I mean
well, no,
is,
no, 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 no. I think it's well. Here's the thing. I'll say this because again, we're clearly saying Bigfoot Odyssey doesn't, but there are plenty of shows that absolutely are.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
They are dragging these, some poor people out, and they're oftentimes making them, trying to amp up this instead of just hearing the story. They want to drag more out of them, and it's, you can tell when that's happening. And I think a lot of people don't. They see that they see the stuff on some of these other channels, and it helps keep them from wanting to reveal it, right? Or they see what's happening on the news. I mean, you want to talk about people who are exploiting trauma. They see, because a lot of people who have these encounters aren't in the community. They don't know that Bigfoot Odyssey is real. What they see is stuff that's on popular media, and what those poor people go through. And it's so for the for having a place that people can be safe and actually speak, I think it's a great idea.
mm. Yeah. Well, I know there's people in the chat here who are not going to come on, but I would love to be able to talk to them. And I don't want to get them on the show. I just want to have a place maybe that we can meet and chat and see what people have been going through. And I think people might share more information as well than what they do when they do come on to encounter shows. You can tell some people are holding back a little bit for whatever reason, maybe because some of it sounds really crazy, or a bit too out there. But you know, Ginger Freak speaking out can be so hard, and coming on here, coming on any show, is hard to do. Even I get nervous sometimes doing it, even though I've been doing it for so long. So, I just want to offer a place for people to come, and I think this is a new way of doing it. Like I say, it's not in a group. We have to type out and wait for someone to reply and all that. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be an easy place for people to just come and chat. Still hide your face, but I think it's going to be a good idea. We'll see what happens on Thursday. I'm going to have it open for a few hours. I'm not sure what time yet. I have to fit it in, obviously, because I'm in the UK, but I want it to be kind of early evening for you guys. But yeah, we'll give it a go and see how it goes.
I think it'll be great. It'll be like hanging out in a coffee shop almost,
It will. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I don't want to record anything. Just free flow chat. And then there's no pressure. I'm going to choke, actually. Hang on.
It'd be a good place for people to have conversation.
Right. Well, and that's how often have we asked this question? Like, what are we not learning? What are we not hearing? Right. Because there's so many, people who are unwilling to come forward and speak, or they don't tell the whole story. And we know that they're holding back. Right. Because they're like, well, I don't want you to think I'm crazy because this weird thing happened here. Or that, well, sometimes those weird things are the things we need to know.
Right.
I mean, again, a big part of all of what I do is predicated on the stuff that MUFON doesn't want to talk about, that the Bigfootery, that a lot of Bigfooters don't want to talk about, right? That archaeologists don't want to talk about. It's like sometimes those weird things are the things we need to really uncover the truth of the matter, right? So I think this is a great idea. I think being able to say, look, I can come on, people don't have to see my face, kind of a thing, and they can tell their story is going to lead to a much more open conversation, and we can start picking things out. I mean, how often do we hear of a story that it's like, well, we saw Bigfoot, but it was wearing like a shirt, like it had stolen somebody's shirt, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Those stories exist.
Yeah.
But we don't know how often that happens. I would, I can sit here and make the claim that Bigfoot, we don't have a lot of reliable accounts of Bigfoot using tools, but there are people who have claimed that they've seen Bigfoot make fires. Right?
I've heard that. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's outside the realm of possibility, but we don't have a lot of those stories. Probably due to a large part of how most encounters occur, but it doesn't mean that, so it's like we're getting I think there's a large section of these encounters that we're not being told. Right?
Definitely.
So I think this is a great idea because a lot of people are self-censoring and they don't want to be recorded. They don't want to go on the record. I've got literally dozens of accounts from people that I've either met here locally or I've known, and they just don't want to come. They don't want their stories to be public. There's one gentleman. I'm going to be very, 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 very vague. But there's one gentleman who's having continuous activity at his property. The creatures appear Bigfoot-like, but they are intimately involved in UFO. But there's this intimate connection with a UFO that he's been seeing on the property for years.
Interesting.
And these creatures are absolutely seem to have, and it's like, I know this guy personally. He is not someone who's going to be making this up. His family has rejected him over this stuff, and it's like he moved into this house to help his mom out. But like these things seem to be and he's had a remote viewer that he knows because he actually is someone of some note. Remote view the property, and they're like, these things are Bigfoot like, but even the remote viewer's like, I don't think they're Bigfoot. There's something else. So it's like, and I've asked him to come on the show, and he's like, I can't talk about this publicly. So I think something like this is really, really important for the community and at large.
we'll
people,
probably produce. Oh, sorry.
it's okay, go on.
I was just going to say, we'll probably, like Jason was saying, produce some answers to like the questions that we have. Just these little nuggets of truth here and there that we're going to pop out. We'll be like, oh, very, very revealing to certain things that maybe we're missing. Just these little pieces.
And I like the aspect of people who have had encounters getting together, because you don't really get that. You get one person on a show, or two maybe, but to have a just people who've had encounters, whatever the encounter is, to have some therapy in some way, just having some validation, or just that kind of thing. Dorothy Wade, it's not going to be live, it's not going to be recorded, it's not going to be on Facebook either. It's going to be like this, but not live streaming, where you see me, Jason, and Jackie. We can get up to 10 people on here, and we can just meet here without recording or live streaming. So it will be in StreamYard, basically. That's the place, but I'll explain a bit more when I put a post up, and I'll share it to a few groups on Facebook as well. So I just think it'd be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe no one will turn up.
Oh, yeah. I doubt it. I think there'll be a lot of people. I think it'll be really good for the community. I really do.
Well, and see, the other thing is, I was just thinking about this, is how often when you have a group of people talking about an experience, right? There are things that we don't necessarily think about to mention, but you're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too, right?
Exactly.
Because it wasn't, you
triggers.
Don't think it's exactly, it's a trigger. You don't think it's important to you, so you don't mention it, but someone else says, oh yeah, that happened to me too. And again, that's how patterns start developing, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like, what I mean, it took me, like I said, I didn't talk about I met Ken Gerhardt. I knew him for several years before I told him about my encounter with I'm like, the dude's specialty are airborne cryptids. He wrote the book Big Bird, the story of these cryptids, these pterosaurs in Texas. There's no one better in the world to have spoken to about this. For years, I'm like, nope, I'm crazy. There's no way it could have been what I saw, even knowing Ken Gerhardt, because no one had talked about him in North Texas, Southern Oklahoma. It's always deep South Texas, right? It's always around the Rio Grande Valley. I'm like, there's no way there's creatures like this around Dallas, Texas, living in a suburb of Dallas, Texas. It's physically impossible. And then, again, talking to, they present these other people from Oklahoma, from Southern Oklahoma, and they all say the same thing that I saw. They notice the same details, and that was the thing that made me go, okay, I need to take a step out here. That's what launched me in a lot of directions, was because it just, hearing people tell me and say that I've never met, who'd never heard my story, and identify the same key points that I did, and be in an area where I'm like, okay, this is possible. And then it didn't take very long to find all kinds of people who'd had the same encounter, and no one was talking, because that's crazy. So I think this encounter hub is a great idea, because people are going to be able to hear things and be like, hey, maybe there's a lot more people encountering Bigfoot with actual tools, right?
Right.
But people are like, well,
fire, or fire, like you said,
clothes, or maybe there's some weird, sound that they're making that people don't necessarily associate with them, but one person will associate. It's like, oh, hey, I heard that same thing. Right.
Yeah.
That's the importance of hearing another human being say something.
Yes.
Versus just having it written out in a magazine or a chat. Actually hearing a human being say something is so important sometimes.
Yeah. It often, like you were saying, like when you finally heard someone else describe it, it made you go, okay, there's some validation there too, and that can help a lot of people. Just being validated in a simple manner like that.
I do keep saying, everyone, we're all interested in the encounters, but we forget about the people who have them.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that's the biggest thing we can actually help with, rather than try and find Bigfoot. have to kind of reel it in a bit, because there's a lot of people having, bad experiences and not dealing with it very well.
Oh
And
yeah.
there's not really
Yeah.
anywhere to go to. So, maybe this will be a place for people to, share a load.
And it could be an open resource for, like there was a woman that was having issues and wanted genuine help, and maybe that could be another avenue for people to reach out and be like, look, I'm dealing with this. Is there anyone that can help me with it?
Definitely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is something else I'm kind of working on too, where, the more people we talk to, the more people we can maybe connect, network with other people, someone close to you. You never know who you live close
Yeah.
to, who would come out and go somewhere with you and help you get to that, go back to that place. I don't know. I think there's a lot that could come from this. So you've got to start somewhere, I
Yeah.
think, and see what happens. But what do people in the chat think? Do you think you'd turn up? Do you think you'd want to come and meet some of the people that you go around all these chats with? Meet up and actually chat face to face, proper talking, not typing. I think it's, go back to talking. We don't do it enough, do we?
No.
No.
Just texting all the time, emails and stuff like that. And we lose the art of conversation.
Yeah.
And
a lot gets lost in text.
mm,
Oh, 90%, 99% of the communication is lost. I mean, context, tone. How
Yeah.
often have you typed something to a chat, or you've texted somebody something, and they take it the completely wrong way? Of
All the time. I live in that realm.
it's when you read it out, you always read it with some voice, don't you? And they said then, isn't it?
Yep.
Why
No,
haven't
exactly. I mean,
you
it's.
said it like that?
I'm guilty of it too. Although I will mention sometimes that people actually are using that tone. But the point is, it's no matter what tone you read it in, it's an assumed tone.
Yes.
And so you're but the point is, so much of our communication is tone of voice, how we're speaking, how we're relating the information, body language, right? Now
Yeah.
you can hide your
Gesture.
face and stuff on this. You don't have to be on screen if you're not comfortable with it, which is fine. But even just the tone and tremble of a voice can tell you everything you need to know.
Definitely. Yes, Jean. That's what it's not actually going to be a channel. There's not going to be a copy of the conversation anywhere. It'd be just like talking to someone over the phone or, face to face.
FaceTime.
Nothing is recorded. It's just completely private, and that's that. So there won't actually be a channel, but there will be somewhere to come to be involved in the conversation if that's what you want to do. Keep an eye out on the community.
Community.
Tab.
Give me one of your words, you guys.
No, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Hold on. Cheese free ginger snap. How dare you? I have never taken you wrong in my life. You know the tone you type out when you're in the chat. I know the tone. I know your tone, lady.
Can you hear it all the way
I
over
can
there?
hear it. I feel it in my soul.
You can just read through messages, can't you? And read them any way that you want to. It's just, well, whose fault is that? Oh, look who it is. Long time no see. Andy gone fishing.
Well, he's been busy fishing.
He's been busy fishing and squirreling and grilling and all that, killing critters and all that stuff. But
Waiting for
good to
new
see you,
equipment.
Andy.
Yeah.
Long time. So, yeah, that's my plan. And Jackie, you're going to be there, aren't you, on Thursday for
it'll be
the
fun.
premiere, the first
Get to
meeting,
hang out. Yeah.
first hangout, and hopefully some guys will join us.
Yeah.
I think
So hold on, Raptor Crazy. Here's the thing: you can, as long as it's a smartphone, you can still join. You don't have to have a laptop and system as long as it's a smartphone because it is a website. But you can log
yeah,
in using your smartphone. You can have the camera on. You can turn the camera off. But I would usually recommend using a low if you want to run with the camera, do it on a low res, right, just to help save with data and all that. And
mm-hmm.
boom, you're off to the races.
Yeah. If you
But
can
yeah,
watch,
as long as you've got a smartphone, you're good.
if you can watch YouTube on your phone, you can do this as well. So it's going to be dead easy, unless obviously you're on one of those phones that like my dad's doesn't do anything other than make phone calls.
Yeah, if you're
and
actually
text.
on a cell phone, then no, you're out. Yeah, if it's a flip phone, right, or one of those Nokia bricks from 1998 that, man, I miss that phone. I had
I
the
do
case.
too.
I
I
had
do too.
the American flag eagle cover on mine. It lasted forever, and it's like it's a it lasted forever. You had that snake
Oh, right.
program
Yep.
game on it.
Yes.
Right.
It
I
doubled
love
as a security
Snake.
device because if someone came at you, you could just bash them in the face with it and still use the phone.
It's,
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if I look at this thing wrong, it breaks.
mm-hmm.
That thing you could beat someone to death with and still make the call to 911.
Snake's such a good game.
It was.
It
I was thinking
was.
about it the other day, actually, how, it was actually a really good game.
It was.
Yeah, it was a
So
simple
simple,
but
but
great game.
so fun.
I cannot use a phone. I cannot show my face. How would that work? I would love to talk to these people about things. What are you doing? How are you watching? How are you watching us now, then, Raptor?
Mm-hmm.
Let's establish that, and then
Yeah, we can resolve this.
Yeah. I don't think Jean. I don't think Jean's has got a phone to do this with. I'm not sure how Jean watches us either.
Oh. Maybe on TV.
Find someone born after the year 2000. They will get you on this chat.
Yes,
That's all we're saying. Yeah, they'll get you on the chat.
Go and borrow someone's phone, a modern phone off someone, a neighbor. Oh, on a desktop. You can do this on a desktop then.
Yeah.
Jean, as well. You could join us quite easily. Yeah.
I agree with Cheese Freak Ginger Snap though. That this flip phone, right? Being able to be like, goodbye, click, snap.
Yeah.
The only thing that could rival that was the feel of the old Bakelite phones, right? A proper telephone that's made of Bakelite, and you just slam it down. Because again, those two could double as weapons. In fact, if you had a good cord, it doubled as like nunchucks.
Oh.
Or you could wrap it around someone, just get it real nice and tight, and then you're burying their body in the back with underneath the petunias. Not that I've done that. But
or jump rope.
Or jump rope. Just saying. Just being able to slam down that Bakelite, just click, 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 click. Mm-hmm. Or when you got fancy, and you had the I swear I grew up with a rotary phone that was stuck on the wall, and you could just click, you just bam.
You had the.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a lot, don't you? You learn a lot.
Do.
Oh yeah.
On this show. Yeah, I don't remember any of that. Probably before my time. But I used to have one of those Matrix phones. What, Jason?
Oh, hold on. You're older than I am. You had a phone. You had a rotary phone.
Excuse me.
I know how old you are, Danielle.
Right.
Don't
How do
even
I get
start
Jason
this with me.
off? How do I mute him?
You talk. I'm not saying how old.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's talk about something else.
See, usually I get to watch this in the privacy of not being
And now you're in the middle of it.
in the middle, and
Now
I
you're
have
in the
to
middle of it.
keep my makeup up.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped
Um,
wearing makeup.
I had a Matrix phone that you could
Oh, the
flick,
ones where it slid.
slid. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted one of those so badly.
I loved that phone. I did.
Yep.
Mobiles so
Mhm.
expensive when they came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. You couldn't even ring anybody. I didn't even know anybody. I knew one person to ring when I got a mobile
that's
phone.
Yeah.
You know, just like one friend. Because when I got one, you know, back in the day, all those many thousand years ago, you know, not many people had them because you couldn't really afford the whole contract thing, and it was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And now
Yeah.
it's cheap as chips, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Remember the when you got the AOL disc
I
and it's
love
like
AOL. I absolutely
it was like
love,
3 free hours. Yes.
absolutely love. I've still got an AOL email address, but I love the whole software thing of you've got
It had
mail.
so many features. Yeah.
Remember
was
chat
silent.
rooms? Just random.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
wild, wild. ICQ.
Mhm.
Remember ICQ?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. That was. Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
That was pretty wild.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I loved
Those
all
were the
that
days.
stuff then. That's when there was no filters, and you
Mm-mm.
could find
Mhm.
so much on the internet.
Yes.
Before Google,
Oh yeah.
really, there was just so much out there
Mhm.
you wouldn't believe. And I've looked back for that stuff, and it's gone. There was so much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that
Oh yeah.
crazy? It's like
Yeah.
a good
Mhm.
portion of the internet just doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, it does. It's just on the dark net.
Yeah.
And you don't ever want to go to the dark web.
No, no,
Mm-mm.
I have been, and it wasn't
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh
was.
yeah.
I was on it all the time. I might be able to remember my number if I really, really think about it.
Oh.
I mean, it
I'd
was a
have
long
to
time
think.
ago.
Yeah.
And what else
Mm.
was back then? Like Napster.
Napster. Oh right.
I never
Oh.
really got into all of that. Like I
Yeah,
didn't.
just Winamax, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the internet was a completely different thing. And back in that time, your computer, you know, if you had 5 gig on gig on it, it was a fully working computer, wasn't it?
Oh
It's-
man. You
you
owned
need,
the world if
you
you,
need,
oh.
I think
I
mine was
remember when I
actually
got a
2.5 gig.
right.
Yeah,
I
and I
remember
was
when I
doing
got a 240 megabyte
Yes.
drive, and I was like,
Remember
clean.
VGA graphics? You're like, man, then you got upgraded to SVGA, and you're like, man, Wing Commander 3 is gonna be lit.
Oh,
Oh yeah. And then it's like I remember there was a when the first gigabyte hard drives came out, I'm like, what the heck are you gonna put on there for a gig? How do you fill up a gigabyte?
right. Oh boy. Yeah.
There was I remember the first terabyte hard drive I ever saw. I was working at FedEx office and dude was he's like, and he puts it was like this big, like this. It was like a very, very small but slightly thicker laptop is what it almost looked like, but just it was closed. It's just in this case. And he's like, dude, it's a terabyte. And I'm like, for this in this thing, and it was like this thing. I'm like, that's a whole terabyte. He goes, yeah, dude, it's a whole mobile terabyte. You plug it into your laptop. Yeah, it is insane how much things have changed. We literally in since I think we got rid of the rotary phone when I was 8 or 9, and it's before you could really do anything with phones. It's like, but it's like I literally went from a rotary Bakelite phone to having instant communication with anyone on the planet at any time in video, and not having it be like that. Those the things where it's like it's a picture, then it's a picture, then it's another picture, but actual just on my phone and all of human knowledge that's easily accessible in my hand. That's how much things have changed in just the last 40 years. It's nuts.
It is. Yeah, when I started working on computers,
Hmm.
I still had reel-to-reel tapes and
Uh-huh.
cards. I'm not kidding. Like that, yeah. Oh,
Oh yeah.
feeding into the system.
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've
I,
watched him go from wall size.
hmm. Yeah. My dad, because he's an old car, he was an old car guy. He loved computers because that was sort of like cars became too hard to really
Yeah.
work on, and so you could just do whatever you wanted to your computers. I remember because he had to get the work computer had to be fairly um, fairly solid. It was a 380. It was a 386,
Oh my
and
gosh.
he's like, hey, look at this, and it was a chess program where each piece was a character and they all had an animation. It's like that was like the top line
Woo.
thing that you could do.
Yes,
Moving.
Andy. Commodore 64.
Hmm.
Yeah. The Betamax.
Atari.
The
Used to
Betamax.
love
Oh yeah.
Atari.
Yeah.
And we used to have this game. It was just the tennis one where it's just like do
Pong.
do
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
do. I can't remember what the thing was
Yeah.
called.
See,
So
Pong and
Pong.
hockey were the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all the
yeah, had
same thing.
different games on them.
But Pong. Oh. Okay. Speaking of Pong, and this may get us off of reminiscing back when the mastodons still roamed the earth.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's back.
they have these. They're called organelles, right? Where they're basically lab grown brain pieces, right? They're called organelles. They have these organelles now playing Pong digitally. Like they're plugging directly into these things to experiment with, and they're playing Pong
Wow.
entirely digitally. There's no because again, these are just cells. They're just brain cells,
Right.
but they're
Heck.
connected enough to that they could play that it's an entirely digital environment that these brains are interacting with, and they're able to play Pong.
It's almost
Mm,
a little disturbing.
Oh,
yeah.
it's really it. The more you think about it, the more you're like, yeah, this seems like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's like with the way that they're going with the virtual, the virtual thing and
Hmm.
tiny houses and, universal basic income. It's almost like they're going to weed everybody down into these little boxes and we'll just be living in these
Oh
virtual
yeah.
worlds.
Well, I mean, you've heard with
Wally
the
world.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the main this is this phrase that was come out. I forget what it's called. It wasn't the World Bank. It was something else. But they were talking about the Great Reset, right?
Oh,
Because that's
right.
what they want. They've been talking about this Great Reset at Davos and a few things.
World
And their main
Economic Forum.
the World Economic Forum. One of their main lines is, "You will own nothing and you will be happy." That's
Hmm.
their main line is you will own nothing and you will be happy. And look at what we're doing. We're turning everything essentially into a subscriber base. Like even your toaster, right? Like 40 years ago, you could buy a toaster, it could break and you could fix it. You
Right.
If you needed a part, you could go to Radio Shack and buy a part and fix it. Cars were one of the reason my father actually his business got pared down was the difference between the old school European cars and even the Japanese cars, and everyone went the way the Japanese car was built was you could fix a European car. They were designed old American cars and European cars were designed to be fixed. You were supposed to own them for 20 or 30 years. That was the idea. You bought them, they were an investment, and you could drive them and you could fix them. And you knew because there was space around the engine to get your hands into to work on. But the Japanese had a very different perspective on their cars, which was you owned it for 3 to 5 years, and then you got rid of it. And for that, you could absolutely, and their engines were very, very well designed. But the problem is you couldn't fix them. It's very, very difficult to fix. The more computerized things are, the more precise everything is. It's like you always sacrifice something. And so you sacrifice space, you sacrifice, you want it to be more efficient, more computers, everything has to be precisely milled. Like the North Star system, when that came out a long time ago. Uh, and they were
Um,
talking about how wonderful these engines were. The problem is the entire engine block was made out of aluminum. If you took the heads off, you had to take the entire engine out and sent it to be milled. You couldn't just take the head off and then put it back on, because the aluminum would warp.
Right.
So it's like the problem is what we now have are cars that really aren't designed to be repaired. They're designed to be replaced. Your toaster isn't designed to be fixed. It's all designed to just work for a small amount of time, and then you throw it out and you put a new one in.
It's almost alarming how much we're digging out of, pulling all these precious resources out just to throw them away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shoop, shoop, shoop.
Exactly. And
they used to build stuff to last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now you're dependent. You're dependent on the system and again, that's why things seem to be more cheaply made. They're more fragile. It's like, okay, I absolutely love Forged in Fire, right? The show.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, and Thomas Sowell talks about photography, right? A lot. I use Forged in Fire because a lot of people seem to get that a lot more easily than cars. But Thomas Sowell in his work, he talks about there is no solution, there's only compromise. It's the same thing with Forged in Fire. If you were to say, what is the best steel? Anyone who knows what they're talking about will say, for what purpose? Because there is no one steel there's no perfect steel for sword making, knife making. It doesn't matter. What are you going to use it for? There's no solutions. There are only compromises. You can get one steel that does this, one steel that does this.
And yeah, exactly.
Right. And you can heat. It's like, it depends on what you're trying to do. That allows you to pick what steel is going to be the best optimal. The problem is, if you need this, you're not going to get this over here. So you have to pick and choose. We can have really highly intricately devised and very precise machines. The problem is they can become expensive and you can't fix them. Or you can have something that's reliable, that will work a large percentage of the time under much more stressful conditions, and can be repaired. But you can't have both.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the requirements. Like, the one thing I always heard growing up, because again, working with my dad, was, well, how is it that we can get a man on the moon, but we can't get an engine to run 100 miles on a gallon of gas? Well, two different sets of problems. And by the way, yeah, we could build you an engine in the 80s that could get you 75 miles to the gallon, no problem at all. Here's the problem, though. You don't want to drive that car. That's the real issue. You don't want to drive the car that gets 75 miles to the gallon, because the energy that's not wasted, but providing you with air conditioning, safety, the crumple zones, the mass, that's all consumed in the gasoline, in burning that, in converting that into energy to run the alternator, to run your radio, to run, to move the mass of steel that's protecting you from dying. That's what's eating up your gas, right? Again, because there's no solutions, there's only compromises. And the problem is, our society has made the compromise we made is we want everything to be top of the line, super fast, James Bond level tech. And we want to make it out for everyone. Well, okay. Well, if that's what you want, then you have to embrace the compromise. And for that to be profitable, you have to buy it over and 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 over and
He's
over.
frozen.
No, that's it. You can never actually own it. You can't own it. You have to. You are locked into the perpetual state of consumership on everything that you will ever own, because you can't make these make money and have them be cheap enough to buy without having to just keep turning it over, because they can't last. Or you can build them to last, but the problem is now that cell phone that you could buy from, that Apple iPhone that's $800 is now going to cost $10,000 or $20,000. And yeah, it'll last you 10, 15, 20 years. But the problem is, as fast as technology is moving, it's going to be obsolete in 3.
Right.
So that's again, we made some choices we've made compromises, and the question is whether or not these compromises are going to be worth it in the long run. I have my doubts.
Yeah.
We've just got a big pile of plastic as well.
Right.
Because of most of this stuff. And a lot of places not wanting it, not being able to do anything with it. I mean, we just...
Yeah. And there's countries that don't really have an option, and they're having to just deal with just truckloads and boatloads coming, and they're just dropping it off, and they're like, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, stop to think about what would happen. Like, seriously, it's like, again, this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having a couple weeks ago about if we were really hit with that sort of coronal mass ejection that really could wipe out all power. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm prepared for it." No, you're not.
No,
you're not. I don't care. It's like, well, I live in the country. You're not prepared for it
because they don't. Yeah, they're missing the key factors of what that would actually do and how far that would replicate and for how long.
Exactly, and how and all the things you have to do to survive without. Again, we're talking about existing without gasoline after about a month. We're talking about existing without electronic light. It's everything. It's modern medicines. It's all of that. And it's sort of like, well, the problem is, yes, I love the technology. I love what we can do with it. I love that we can talk to people all over the world. I love that we can find out new things and hear new. The problem is, though, once you're in the system, you're basically locked into the system. And it's real easy for the system to lock you out. Like it's not going to be very hard for them to be able to say, push this button, and Iron Dogger no longer gets to be in the system.
No, gotta be sitting down in my little own pod.
Yeah,
be a podling.
We're so dependent. Exactly. We're so dependent, aren't we, on stuff?
We are.
We just don't realize it until something happens. And
well, it's like I go from the cabin to here. We've done this for a few years now, and it's really, it's very eye-opening just going from such a difference. Like, okay, going to the store is a few-hour journey. As opposed to just getting in the vehicle and just going down the road for a few minutes. Like, the livelihood is completely different. Like, there's neighbors here. Like, I don't get to go run around and visit neighbors, over there. They're far spread out, things like that. It's really different. It's completely different. So I get a really good perspective of how different things would affect being here as opposed to if we were in Alaska, out at the cabin. If something went bad, if things went bad, I'd want to be out at the cabin in Alaska. We've got the resources there. We got a lake. We got a blah, 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 blah. Those are things you think about. Can you live off the land? Oh, if you're in a city.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and not to get lost in that conversation again, but I mean the bigger point is we're all enslaved to this system of you're never really independent. And that's by design. It's one of those things where you have all these luxuries, but in the end, does that take something away from you? Right? I mean, we have more suicides than we ever have. We have more depression than we ever have. I mean, our society is psychologically sick. No matter by any design, any measurement. I was again when I was in college. Sociologists were talking about how they thought it was that it was insane that by that time it was right around 50% of the teenage population seriously contemplated suicide. Like sociologists were flipping out. Like, this is nuts. Right. This is a sign of a severely sick society. We have blown way past that now.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think a lot of it's because the level of technology. There's always noise. There's always noise.
Right. And you don't get time to just sit and really be with your thoughts in a healthy environment. Like, there's all this coming at our youth from so, like, I'm watching my son, and it's like a whole different world from when we grew up. It is like communication, everything. Like, I could not imagine being in high school with social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Woo!
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the pressures that they're under, and I think there's a lot more burnout, and we're losing a generation that built everything, and I don't know. I think there's so much where we've become so disconnected with our elders, and the youth and the elders are not together. We've put our adults into homes, and we've got our kids into daycares, and in school all day, and I don't know. I think we're just making a mess of ourselves.
Well, and
Definitely.
think about what the argument is, right? It's, well, we have to put the kids in the daycare. Why? Well, because I can't. Well, because we can't work, or my wife can't work if we don't have the daycare. Okay. Well, how much is your wife making versus how much is the daycare costing? Right? You're like, well, hold on. Aren't you basically just working to have your kid in daycare half the
Daycare,
time?
right?
Like, it's like for most of, again, now some people are making way more than we cost for daycare, but still, it's like, but aren't you just working to own more stuff?
Yeah. The more money people have, the
Mm-hmm.
bigger the bills they have.
Yeah.
More
It
money,
just
more
goes
problems.
hand in
That's
hand
how the
for some
saying goes.
reason.
Well, it's
Instead
like
of
that. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's all right. I'm just saying, instead of just living within your means, saving money and thinking, a bit further ahead,
Mm-hmm.
people go to all sorts of like, you get a bit of money, oh, I'll get a new car, or put yourself more in debt,
Mm-hmm.
bigger payments, because you seem to think that comes hand in hand. That the more money you've got, you have to
Mm-hmm.
show by
Yeah.
having a flash car or a new house or
Designer
clothes.
clothes, or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're so pressured to feel like that's how we have to show ourselves, but I don't, it's not, it shouldn't be like that. You can have
Mm-mm.
money and still be modest and
Mm-hmm.
do the things you want to do. You don't have to you know get
Right.
yourselves in debt with the more money that you get. It's
Yeah, it's that he
dreadful.
who
Mm-hmm.
dies with the most toys wins mentality has
Mm-hmm.
really just destroyed our world in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got shareholders now, and we're all complicit in that because we all
Oh
had
yeah.
401ks and things like that. So we needed these things to do well. Well, at the same time, in order to keep shareholders continually making money, guess what? We're eroding, all of our
Mm-hmm.
morals and different things at the same time. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we're making these exchanges.
Yep. Well,
Uh,
this has been fun.
Sorry, I just noticed we have been honoured by the presence
Yes.
of Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Yeah, his actually his so we've been doing these sort of fictional stories on our channel with his is coming up next, and I have enjoyed his particular aesthetic choices
Oh,
on his recording. That's all I'm going to say.
oh,
Awesome. I look forward to it.
look forward to seeing that. Yes, Jean, less is more. Less is really more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got a lot I just need to get rid of.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
that's what we're in the middle of right now, is trying to get rid of stuff, because it's like I want to take it back to my garage to have to have my broadcast studio permanently set up, because right now I'm having to set up and take down, set up and take down, and it's like I would like to have it. Well, I've got to get my garage under control, and I can't even park my cars. I've got a 3-car garage. I can't get one car in.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Now, one of it was supposed to be an art studio, and it'll eventually become a thing. But it's like we own all this stuff, and let me stop by saying, by themselves, no one point of this is really a problem.
Mm-mm.
The real problem, though, is that we've put ourselves is how we're doing it, right? Like, we're not doing the work ourselves. We're not manufacturing the things ourselves. in a clean and responsible environment. What we're doing is we're making certain that it's happening overseas with slave labor and in filthy conditions, and they don't have the same kind of. In fact,
Not
that's one of the
my
things. Like,
backyard.
exactly, it's not in my backyard. We don't, we're everyone wants to have an electric car, but no one wants to have the mines, here. They don't want to produce them here because if we were to produce them responsibly here, which we could, they would cost way more.
Hmm.
But China, we're happy to let China destroy the environment as long as it's happening over there. Because as long as it happens in China, we don't care. Japan used to own the solar panel market. China said we can do it cheaper and by not caring about ecological regulations because they don't care about their people. And everyone's like, "Yep, let's do that." You know, Again, everyone cares about slavery. Africa's got more slaves today than has ever existed in the planet. They're
Hmm.
working bauxite mines. They're working uh, cobalt mines to get the materials for that car battery. Hey, yeah, some 8-year-olds in a bauxite mine. Wonderful, more aluminum for my car.
Yeah, it's
You
a
don't,
mess, isn't it?
yeah.
It is.
A lot
We
of it
um,
goes on.
yeah, we almost lost. We have one last fully natural salmon spawning habitat on the planet, and it exists in Bristol Bay, Alaska. It is the last one on our entire planet, and we have been fighting to keep
Mhm.
it that way because guess what? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, it's like, haven't we learned enough? Like, have the salmon ever returned to any of those areas? No,
Mhm.
not. We've
No.
lost numbers everywhere. And
Mhm.
meanwhile, Bristol Bay is still bringing back record numbers, even still. So, they're
Mhm.
obviously doing something right out there, and it can be done. We just have to want to do it. We just have to make these choices. And I think those are the biggest things we as a species need to recognize is we are here to make choices.
Hmm.
We as a generation, if we really
Mhm.
want to feel special, if we really want to feel like we have a purpose,
Mhm.
there's our purpose. Let's make some choices,
Well, I would argue we were
good
given the
choices.
purpose right there. We're in Genesis 1. We're supposed to be stewards of the planet. To
Exactly.
steward something means you're supposed to take care of it. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean, the idea that we were supposed to bring civilization to the world. Humans are good things. We create new things. We're supposed to build new things. But we're also supposed to recognize that we're stewards of a planet. We don't own
Right.
it. We're supposed to be responsible, which means we're supposed to take care of it. But we want the chaos that the evil within our own heart brings. I want to have the newest car. I want to have the flashiest clothes. I want to have the most complicated Starbucks order in the history of ever. I hate Starbucks with a burning passion.
Never been there.
It's like I don't even drink coffee. I hate it. It's just we want these things, but we don't want to. But we want someone else to do the work.
Right.
Again, you go back 120, 200 years ago. If you want a rocking chair, you made the rocking chair, right? The goods that you could sell in exchange were very, very limited, but they were also very expensive.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like, so the problem is hyper specialization means, yeah, you can build some really, really fancy whiz bang things. Like, no one human can build this cell phone. No one human can build this cell phone from scratch. Most people couldn't even, like, no human can, well, it could be done, but it's almost impossible for any one person to manufacture a pencil. One pencil represents thousands of jobs. Harvesting the rubber for the rubber plant, to then converting it into rubber for the eraser, the bronze, the paint, the wood, the graphite, then making the machines that allow you to put all them together, right? Thousands upon thousands of jobs to make a single pencil. Well, those thousands of jobs can't exist unless you're making millions upon millions upon millions of pencils, right? So it's like the more specialized we get, the more whiz bang things we can have, but that also makes us way more dependent on these broader systems to work. And the problem is, the more power gets centralized with one group of people, the more they're going to keep that power, and
That's
that's where we're at right now. This is we're witnessing the consolidation of that power. I mean, it, having a well-working and well-oiled economy that works for most people isn't hard. We just saw it 2 years ago. What we're seeing right now is what it looks like when you have the biggest transfer of wealth from the middle class to the upper crust in human history. Never since people forget how much, like, there's no way to comprehend how much money the church during the Middle Ages extracted from Europe
Mhm.
through indulgences and things like that. People are like, well, how are the indulgences? Why did that start the Protestant Reformation? Well, they were extracting so much money and so much resources from Europe that they built the Vatican. That the closest estimate anyone can come up with to how much it would cost today and this is with our modern technology, to do everything in there that they did in the Middle Ages would cost over $1 trillion. Like, there's no way of actually knowing how much money was extracted, but that's where we're at right now. All of these small mom and pop businesses that you watch get murdered over the last 2 years, all of that, the businesses all that money got extracted, got sent out to Amazon, to Facebook, to Google, to Walmart. That's where they all are. That's where it all went. It's consolidating that power. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that has ever occurred in human history. It makes what the church did during the Middle Ages look like nothing. That's where we're at. That's why why do you think during all this that the Davos group and the World Trade, they're all like, let's do this great reset. Let's push this big reset button. Let's reset all of it. Okay, I'm always up for progress. I'm always up for resetting things to make them better. The problem is I don't know that I trust the people pushing the button.
Right. Yeah. That's key. And I could go on a whole tangent on.
This could be another whole show.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a whole other show. Absolutely.
Well, we'll carry on one night. We'll carry on with this because it's all fascinating. And like you say, we can all do something to lessen the blow of all this stuff. We don't have to participate in everything. We don't have to buy all those bits. We can go to local people who don't have to mass produce stuff, but produce something with love and care, and is just as good, better quality probably than some of the crap that we buy out there on Amazon and places like that. But we have come to the end of the hour, almost, pretty much. We're there, almost. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight, Jason, Jackie. If anyone's interested in the Encounter Hub, here's my email. If you want to get in touch, you want to be part of it, you want to come on, get in touch with me, and I'll explain how it works and how we can meet up. And like I say, it isn't live. It's not going to be recorded. There's not going to be a copy of the conversation anywhere other than on the night in that room, in that space where we're at. It will just all be kept there. And I hope you come along, even if it's just to say hello to me and Jackie. And, Jason might be there. Anyone's welcome to come along and pop in. Like I said, it's going to be on Thursday, probably like 5 Central, around that time, 6 Central. But I'll
probably hop on then.
Yeah, I'll put a post up anyway in the community
Community
tab.
Community.
Mutiny
Mutiny.
In the Mutiny channel.
Commune Mutiny.
On my channel, you'll see it. I'll put some details up on there, and like I say, get in touch. Email me if you want to know a little bit more, or you want the link sent to you in an email, or you want to know a bit more about what's going to happen. But I think it'll be a good thing. So once again, thanks everyone. If you've enjoyed the show, press the like button, leave us a comment. It does help the channel. I do appreciate it. I appreciate you all coming here tonight and watching. And I'm going to see you all maybe on Tuesday, hopefully, for Drawing Bigfoot on Bigfoot Odyssey. If not, we'll be on Wednesday Encounters on Bigfoot Odyssey on Wednesday night, of course. And yeah, thanks and good night.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
Daniela.